Hi everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we are making this ruffle trim blouse. This is so pretty. It has ruffles, it uses cotton yarn, it's got cute little bows on the side. I mean, it's really everything trendy right now. So I'll get into the supplies and then I'll get into the frequently asked questions about sizing, and then we'll get into making this piece. So big huge thank you to Lion Brand Yarn for providing the yarn for this project today. We are using Comfy Cotton Blend. This color that I'm using is called Spring Meadow, but there are so many different variations of this yarn, or you can use any light yarn that's a size 3 or even a size 4 worsted weight yarn, okay, if you wanted to use that. You can use any type of yarn that's a worsted weight or even a fingering weight. This is really off a measurement, so it really doesn't matter what kind of yarn you use. If you want to use bulky yarn, go for it. You'll just need a bigger size crochet hook. But yeah, today we're using Comfy Cotton Blend thanks to Lion Brand Yarn. And I'm using about 1,100 yards of this. So I got 3 skeins or 3 cakes of these, and I used majority of the 3 cakes of those. So thanks to Lion Brand for that. We are going to be using an H size crochet hook today. This crochet hook I'll be using in this tutorial is from the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy. This is an ergonomically hand carved wooden handle crochet hook. You can get at the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy. You can choose your favorite hook size, and then they are inserted permanently. They are lightweight, super fancy, love them, and I use them in all my crochet projects. So check out Would Be Fancy and get your crochet hooks, but this is an H size hook today. We're going to need a yarn needle and scissors to cut our yarn and sew in our ends. And now for measuring, for sizing, this piece will fit me personally. My chest size, so you want to go off of your chest size and your waist size, okay? So my chest size is 40, and my waist is kind of like 40 also. So this stretches pretty wide here. So you want to, in my tutorial, I share tips and tricks on how to keep the sizing, because this is stretchy yarn, to keep it down. So you just chain less and then stretch your chain to make sure, because this is going to be kind of form-fitting. So we are going to measure, this is about 40 inches around, and this panel and then this panel I share again in the tutorial. This is half of your chest measurement, okay, and stretchy. So my chest is 40 and that is 10 across, so 20, it should be 20 across, and obviously around is 40. So that is, oh, and the length, you can go as long or short as you want. This is 20 inches long for my, well, a little bit longer, about 21 inches long. But for this base part, I only did a certain amount of rows, but you can make this part longer to make your shirt longer if you want to. So very versatile pattern. You can make this in many sizes, many different ways you can make this. You can add or subtract the ruffle. Excuse me, I have a cough situation. Sorry about that. I've been kind of sick lately. Anyways, so you can make this as long or short as you want it to make your size. And then these are just chains to make the bows. If you want to make a traditional bow, I do have a video tutorial on how to make any size bow, and you can add actual bows or flowers or something to the side here for extra embellishments, or you can add something up here as well. But with this yarn being so colorful and different tones, I just left it because it's so busy already. But I really enjoyed making this piece. It was so much fun. It took me, I would say, a full week, but I didn't work on it consistently. You could probably make it in a few days, honestly. It's all single crochet, and it's very quick workup, and with the H size hook, that worked out really well. So huge thank you to Lion Brand Yarn for providing the yarn today. Big thank you to my dad, who's over my shoulder filming this entire tutorial for everybody, and thanks to you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Check out the free crochet pattern on YARNutopia.com, and check out all of our social links in the description description of this video, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those places. Alright, let's get started and make this ruffle trim blouse. We're going to start off with a slip knot, so put your short end over your long end, fold this down, and then pull your long end through and pull tight, and there's your slip knot. And you can insert your hook. We're using the H size hook on this project. If you want to use an I hook, that's totally fine. That's 5.5 millimeters. But we're going to start off making the panels. So to start the panels, the front, I guess the shoulder, they're going to go over each shoulder, so we have to make 2 of these. So I'm just going to show 1, and then you can make 2. So let's chain. Now for this project, it's more for measurements than the amount of chains. So measure over your shoulder, like from your back to your front, like this, and measure to your belly button. So on the back of your body, your belly button, navel, and then over your shoulder to the front of your navel, and that is the measurement you want both panels to be. Okay, so my measurement, I measured and chained, I should measure, I measured mine, let me see, forgot the number. Okay, so I was 29 inches from front to back. So this is one panel I made off camera. So this is what it's going to be like over the shoulder. This is the shoulder part. This is front, and this is back, okay? So you want to measure however long you need it to be, and then start making your chain, your foundation chain, that long, okay? So I need to make a chain that's 29 inches. So yarn over, pull through, 1, 2, 3. So mine specifically worked up at 100 chains evenly, which was nice. So I'm just going to chain 100, and once I do that, I'll come back and show you the next step. So I've chained 100. If you want to chain 101, just chain an extra 1 for your turning chain. And if you wanted to start with a foundation single crochet to do step 1 and 2 all together, you can foundation single crochet your first row. That's totally cool. So if you know how to do that, that's awesome. So I chained 101 here. I'm going to skip this first chain because that doesn't count as anything. I'm going to go into the second chain from the hook right here. And I like to work in the back ridges of my work like this, but you can work in any loop of your chain. But we're going to go in that second chain from the hook right there. Go in, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops, and that's a single crochet. And we're just going to single crochet into each chain all the way across this piece. Super simple. So we chained the length that we need for this panel, and now we're just going to single crochet across. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back when I need to go on to row 2. Alright, I've just single crocheted across here, just like this. So every row now, we are just going to single crochet across. So let's chain 1 and turn the work around. Okay, just like this. And don't forget this first stitch right here. We're going to just go into that stitch. Okay, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. And we're just going to do that for every single row. So turn your work, chain 1, and single crochet into each stitch across. Now, how wide do you need to make this? How many rows should it be? I am personally going to be doing 28 rows, and that does not count single crocheting around the whole piece. So once we finish our rows, we are going to single crochet around the entire piece. Okay, so let me grab I'm just single crocheting across, but here's the panel I had done. Okay, so I did 28 rows, so this will cover my one side of my chest, basically. Okay, so if I fold this in half, you want to zoom out a little bit, you can see that this is going to go over my shoulder. Okay, this is going to be on the front, and this is going to be on the back, and this is going to cover 1/2 of my chest. So if you want to measure from your armpit over to the center of your chest, that will be the thickness that this needs to be. So mine ended up being 28 rows, and that will cover half of my chest, but if you need to do more or less, just do more or less rows than me, and it's that simple. So do that, and then once I finish making this panel to 28 rows, I'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so I just finished my 28th row, so you can see here, I'm just going to pull this up so you can see what my work looks like here. It's just this long panel, okay? So now what we're going to do, it is thick enough, so this will go over my shoulder here, and this will cover half of my chest, and this will be on the back side. So after you're finished with your panel, we're not actually finished yet. We want to clean off these edges, so we're going to single crochet around the whole thing. So what we're going to do is kind of like going to a row 29, so chain 1 and turn your work around, and then just single crochet into each stitch across, just like you're making the next row. And then when I get to the next corner, I'll show you how to turn the corner and go down the side, where to put your stitches and everything, and then we'll single crochet around this whole piece, and then we have to make one more. Alright, when you get to the last stitch on this row, we are going to actually put 3 single crochets in that corner stitch just to turn the corner. So 1, 2, and 3, and now we can work down this side. So basically what I was doing in my prototype is I was single crocheting in each row, okay? So just around the stitch, really wherever your hook will fit, just yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Down to the next row, and just single crochet in each side of the stitch down this piece, and that's it. And then in the next corner, put 3 single crochets, and then single crochet along your bottom foundation chain, and then 3 stitches in the next corner, and then up the last side. When I'm finishing up the last side, I will show you how to fasten this piece off, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so when you're working, make sure to put 3 single crochets in every corner. I'm back to the beginning here, so I'm going to put 2 single crochets, 2 single crochet stitches in that beginning stitch because we had 1 in there already, and so that will make 3 for the corner. And when we're finished, we're going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet stitch right in here, yarn over, pull through, and through. And then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to cut our yarn pretty long to sew, to use for sewing later. So I'm going to cut my yarn pretty long. I would say that's about 2 or 3 feet, just to have extra, just in case. It's probably more than I need, but continue to pull it through your loop there, and that fastens it off. Okay, there we go, pull tight, and there is your panel. How lovely. You can stretch it out however you need to, and that'll cover. Awesome. So what I need you to do is make 2 of these total. Okay, so I made this one on camera with you, and then I had this one made off camera earlier. They're the same exact size. Okay, and we're just going to lay them out so you can see kind of the aesthetic of what it's going to look like. So these 2 back panels are going to be together, kind of overlapped a little bit, like this. And then these front panels are also going to be overlapped just a little bit. So that's kind of how, so those are each shoulder. This is the neck, the head hole. And now we're just going to make a band to sew this to on the bottom, okay? So we're going to make kind of a circle, kind of a big circle, and for that piece you have to measure around your waist, kind of where your navel, where your belly button is, measure around your waist, and a little bit lower if it's a little bit bigger, I guess, to fit this piece around. So I have a little bit of flab underneath my navel, so I measured that part instead so it'll fit around that area. And so I'm going to make a panel or a piece to fit around that waist. Okay, so we can set these two pieces aside, grab our yarn, and for that piece, let me measure myself. I forget my measurements. Okay, so for that piece, mine's about 40, a 40-inch waist. Dang, that's what I'm sitting, okay? I'm sitting down. Anyway, we're gonna make a chain that is 40 inches essentially. So let's get in focus and make a slip knot. Short end over the long end, fold this down, pull it through, and pull tight. And we are going to make a chain that is that measurement. So for me, I had to chain 120 chains, and you want it to stretch, okay? So chain the amount and then stretch it. Not too stretched, but stretchy enough that it will be comfortable around your body, okay? And stretch that to your measurement. So I chained 120. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So just continue chaining until you have your measurement. And when you have your measurement, let me just chain really fast here so I can show you. When you feel like you have your measurement, just stretch this like this, okay, and then measure, okay, because you want it to be kind of form-fitting, but also not too loose, you know what I'm saying? So if you don't stretch it and your measurement, it could become a little too loose on you, so just stretch it a little bit, not too much, and then measure, and that should be how yours should be. So I'm chaining 120. You might chain more or less depending on your waist measurement. So I'll do that and then I'll be right back. Alright, when you chain the amount that you need, we're going to, without twisting your chain, okay, I'm just doing this for a prototype for the camera. Mine's pretty short here, but I have a piece made off camera that's bigger that'll fit around my waist. But we're going to go to the very first chain way over here without twisting anything. We're going to take our hook and go into that first chain. Then yarn over with your working yarn and pull through that loop and the loop here, just like that, to slip stitch. And we've created a circle. So yours will be much bigger than this because it has to fit around your whole waist. So I'm just showing you a little prototype here on camera, but this is what we're making essentially. So now we have to make it thicker to fit and cover our belly basically. So let's chain 1, and in each chain around we are going to single crochet. Okay, so just make sure you know the number of chains you have so that you know where how many single crochets you should have. Okay, and if you want to, you can work in the back ridges. So if you turn your chain, if your chain looks like this, you can turn your chain towards you and work in those back ridges if you want, or in any loop really of the of the chain. You could just single crochet in any loop. I like working in the back loops though because it shows like kind of a cleaner edge when you are working across there. So that's what it should look like. So we're just going to single crochet in each chain around, and then once I get back to the beginning, I'll show you how to go on to row 2, but it's basically a repeat all the way around. So I'll do that and then I'll be right back. Alright, with this piece now I've single crocheted all the way around. You want to make sure that it's not twisted or turned in any way, so just make sure that your piece is correct, and then you can go slip stitch into the very first single crochet. So ignore this chain 1 stitch right here and go into the actual single crochet stitch itself and yarn over, pull through and through the loop on your hook and pull tight, and there's a slip stitch. So now for every row after this we are going to chain 1, turn your work around. Okay, that's key because your seam here, this seam, is going to be straight then. If you continue working in this direction and slip stitch, chain one, and just continue working in this direction and not turn your work, your seam will be slanted. So the way we do this, if we turn our work around, so the seam will stay straight. It's just how crochet works. I don't know. It's cool. So turn your work around. And if you need to flip this around, that's cool too. Okay. So either side is front or back or inside or outside. No, it doesn't matter. So we chained one, we turned our work around, and now we're just going to single crochet into each stitch around. Very simple. Then slip stitch to the first single crochet, chain one, turn your work, and single crochet in each stitch around. Super simple for this piece as well. It's just going to be a tube. And you can make this as thick as you want, as wide as you want. If you want a longer shirt, or if you want a crop top, crop tops are in at this moment of time in the trendy kind of style. But if you want it longer to cover down your, cover your waistband of your pants or whatever you want to do, you can make this as thick as you want. So I am doing, actually I don't know how many rows I did. I gotta see if it covers me. So I'm gonna put my piece together off camera and try to see if I need to make it thicker. But I'll show you it off camera right now, actually. This is the piece I have. I still have to do a couple more rows, but it's just the band. This is the back, and you can see the seam here. You can barely tell there's a seam there because we turned our work each row. It's right there, but you can barely see it. So cool. Okay, so this is my band. Okay, this is the back, so I'm going to flip it around here. This is the front. And then these two panel pieces. And we're going to put one here and one here, like this. So that's kind of the rough idea of how it's going to look. I think I'm going to make this just a little bit wider to cover more of my belly. So I'm going to do that and make this a little bit wider, and then once I'm finished with this piece, I'll come back and show you how to sew everything together. Okay, welcome back. I am finishing the band that is at the bottom here, and I did 24 rows, and I feel like this is long enough to cover the bottom of my belly. So what we're going to do, I slip stitch to the first stitch, and then I'm going to chain one and just cut my yarn and then sew in this end. So this is the bottom piece. Okay, just like that. Now, I did not mention about the ruffles, and I totally spaced, so let's do that next on these top panels. So I did one off camera. I want to show you. Here, if we zoom out here, you can see the edge ruffle. So if you put your two panels, lay them out on top of your waist piece, and then line this up. This side has ruffles on this outer side, so this one is going to have ruffles on the outer side of this piece here. So just, it doesn't matter where your long strand is to sew later. That will be we'll use that long strand to sew it to this piece after. But I'm going to make the ruffles at this point before attaching these two pieces to this piece. Okay, so what we want to do is take either the outer edge of this piece or the outer edge of this piece and attach your yarn to the corner stitch. Then grab your working yarn, hook it on, and pull it through, and then chain two. Okay, let me get all this out of the way, and we are going to work on the outer edge of this piece. Now, ruffles are optional, so if you don't want ruffles, you can just fast forward this section. But what we're going to do is put 2 double crochets into each stitch along just one side of this whole piece, okay? One side meaning from here all the way around to this edge here. Okay, so one full side. And we're going to put 2 double crochets. So a double crochet is yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through those other 2 loops. That is a double crochet. So we're going to do 2 double crochets into each stitch across. So hop to this next stitch here, put 2 double crochets, yarn over, pull through 1 and 2. Okay, just like that, yarn over, go into the next stitch, make 2 double crochets in each stitch all the way across. This is just row 1 of the ruffle. There are 2 rows to make the full ruffle effect. So for this row, we're just putting 2 double crochets into each stitch across, and then when I get to the end, I'll show you how to do row 2 of the ruffle. Alright, just finishing up here. Let me get my better hook. There we go. So once you have 2 double crochets in each stitch, your ruffle should start to form. Looking good. We wanted to do it all across this whole panel. Just on one side, that's the outer sleeve part of your panel. So now going on to row 2, continuing with the ruffle, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work around. And now what we're actually going to do is put 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then just put 1 double crochet in the stitch after. And just repeat that sequence all the way across. So 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2. So 2 double crochets in that stitch, and then 1 double crochet in the next. Then 2 double crochets in the next, and then 1 double crochet in the stitch after. Okay, and just repeat that sequence all the way across, and that will complete your ruffle. And then when I'm ready to fasten off, I'll show you what to do, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, just putting 1 double crochet in my last stitch here. So this is what our ruffle is looking like. So fabulous. So now I'm going to chain 1 and cut the yarn, and you don't have to cut it long or anything, just cut it short, and we'll sew that in. Pull this all the way through and pull tight. And now what I need you to do is the other side. So you have 2 pieces, the 2 panels, both with ruffles. Okay, that looks so much better, actually. I really like that. And we are going to kind of overlap them like this. Okay, and then we're going to line up this bottom piece. Okay, and now we're going to sew this. Now you will have open area over here from the bottom of this piece all the way up. That's going to be like a big giant armhole, but if you want to stitch it closed later, we can do that if you don't want your side to show. But this is going to be sewn across here, and we're going to sew up a little bit here to close this, and then in the sides we'll decide later in the sides if we want to sew up on the sides. But that is essentially it. So let me get my yarn needle and let's get to sewing. Alright, so I am ready to sew my piece, and I was kind of playing around with the aesthetic and how I want it to look. So what you want to make sure is your seam on this base, on this bottom piece, make sure your seam is in the back, okay? So make sure that that's there. Then, for these 2 pieces, we are going to, you can decide which piece you want in the front or the back, but they are going to overlap. So we want to line this up with the back layer with this one. Okay, so we're going to just set it there. Okay, we are going to have a little bit of space, probably an inch or 2 on the side. That's just going to be like a giant armhole, okay, because this is like a vest. So if you want to wear a shirt underneath this, or for a more revealing look, you can wear like plain or whatever, wear this plain. But there will be very much access to your side, okay? So what we're going to do is lay this down here, have like an inch or 2 on the side open. We're not going to sew this to that part. And then we're going to overlap this over this panel just a little bit, like 10 stitches, just like this, because we want it to V in the back. See this V? We want it to V in the back and the front. So we're going to do this piece, then this piece again. We fold this over, put this over the front, and now this piece is going to be sewn to the front part of this tube here. Okay, so this piece, and then this piece overlapping that, okay, and this piece is going to be sewn to the front of this piece. So these two pieces are going to be sewn to the back, and then these two pieces are going to be sewn to the front, okay, and then these are going to be giant armholes. There's going to be a little bit of space here and here, okay. So I'm going to start sewing. Now you can use the long strands that we had cut earlier, but you will need extra yarn to sew. You can just see I'm yarning my needle. Okay, and we're just going to start. So if you need to mark your stitches, you can mark some stitches, but I'm just going to start with this piece, and you don't have to sew the ruffle if you don't want to. If you want to sew the ruffle down, that's fine, but my strand is here, so it ends right there. So I'm just going to kind of whip stitch it so you can put the right sides together, like so. Okay, and just go in and out. Okay, you can kind of, a whip stitch is just going around and around and around and around. So you can look up the whip stitch if you want to learn how to do that in a tutorial, or there is something called a mattress stitch, which I personally do like a lot. That has no gapping, no seams. I really like that stitch. So mattress stitch you can learn as well and sew it together. Just sew this together how you feel most comfortable, but the whip stitch is doing its job and looking good. So I'm just going to sew this piece, and then once I get to about here, I'm going to add in this piece and then sew all of this together, and then just continue with this piece all the way to the end. Okay, so I'll do that, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I sewed from here to here, and I'm nearing the halfway point, by the way. Also, there's about 10 stitches left on this piece. So what I'm going to do now is overlap these two pieces 10 stitches together. Okay, and we're still gonna sew these 10 stitches with these 10 stitches and to this piece, and then we'll continue to sew then this piece to the very end. Okay, I did stretch my piece a little bit to cover the surface area, so make sure you do that. And if you need to use two stitches for one stitch when you're sewing, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just sewing the whip stitch continuing, okay? So I'm going in this stitch of the base, and then this next stitch of this panel, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch of this panel, and I'm just going to continue across, just working those 3 pieces together, sewn up. Then if you want to later sew up this part here, this little overlap, to keep that closed so that it has the V up here, you can do that too, which I probably will either tack down or, you know, just do a little knots or something just to keep that in place. But a suggestion also is, if you want to make sure it's completely even, is to start where we did here and work across here until we have those 10 stitches left, then overlap these 2 pieces, and then start sewing from this end Okay, start sewing from this end to the center and meet in the middle. That would be a good suggestion. Then you can just work up and sew this down at the end. And you make sure it is even. I did count my stitches off camera though, so I made sure that it was going to be even across my piece. But if you are one to not count the stitches across the side of your panels, and you have a different number of stitches on when you crochet around those two panels, don't worry about it. It's not terribly like difficult to sew this together, so it will be even and it will look fabulous at the end. Just really how you want to, as the creator of your piece. You can sew this however you want. Like I said, you could do the whip stitch, you could do the mattress stitch, you could sew it from this side across, or this side and then this side meet in the middle. It's really up to you how you want to sew this and make it super fabulous. So I'm just going to continue, and then once I get to the end here, I'll show you how to fasten this off, and then we'll flip them up and sew them to the front panel, and then finish up this piece with a few embellishments. Alright, I just sewed all the way across here. I'm going to fasten this off and then show you what it looks like. So we're going to fasten off. We're going to go through 2 stitches here on this piece and this piece. Okay, keep your finger in the loop and then come back around through the loop with your needle and then pull tight, and that creates a knot. Okay, and then you can just sew in this end. If you want to do it twice or 3 times, go for it. It'll be extra secure. Okay, perfect. And then what I just do is just go back through the stitches with my needle and then back and forth just to secure that end, and stretch it out to make sure it is hidden and secure. There we go. And cut. Cool. Now you can see what it looks like here. So we have this piece sewn, this piece sewn in the back. Now we're going to fold these forward. So this was in the back, then we put this one on top. So now we're going to put this one down in the front, and now we're going to sew it to this front part of this base here. Okay, same concept. We are going to sew from here, and then until there's 10 stitches here, then we're going to sew this down and sew this across to the end. Okay, now if you want to, if it's easier for you to turn this inside out, I'm going to flip this. Okay, I prefer sewing inside out just because it has a clean seam. I'll show you on the back side here. I'll show you here. It has a clean, you can't even tell really that I sewed it. It looks really good. You can stretch it. Once you wear it, wash it, everything, it will soften out nicely. It looks good. Okay, on to the next. Okay, so I got to this part. Don't mind this orange piece of yarn. I'm just marking a stitch. I skipped, so little tips and tricks here. I skipped 8 stitches here, and on this side I counted 8 stitches in this little armhole area and marked that stitch. This is the 9th stitch, so there's 8 stitches here, marked the 9th stitch, and that's where I will end across here. This part I marked right here because matching in the back, that's where it kind of started to overlap this piece. Okay, so now I'm at that point, right? I sewed across here and I've been sewing it inside out. Okay, so I flip this over and I'm sewing it like this, right? So now I'm at the point where I have to add this piece, and I was a little confused because I want it to be this piece on the top, right? Because we went this piece, then this piece, now we're doing this piece, and then this piece. So this piece has to be on top, okay? I don't want to confuse you too much, so just keep watching. So what I'm doing is 10 stitches. Again, there's 10 stitches on this little piece left over, so 10 stitches and 10 stitches will align, and we will sew this all together. However, I'm sewing it inside out, but this is right side out, so now what I have to do, I think, to make it look good, is lay this on top of here like this, okay, and then flip this piece over on top of everything like that. Okay, I'll just get rid of this. Okay, so we have these two pieces, and then this piece is inside out here. Okay, and then we're just going to sew it like this, I think. So through these two panels, and then the bottom piece is this piece there, and that should secure the next 10 stitches on both panels and the bottom together in the front. Okay, I'm going to turn this over and see. Oh yeah, that looks good. So this piece is on the front, this piece is behind, and this is going to be sewn together. Sweet! Looking good! Okay, and then I'm just going to continue on sewing this piece to the piece until I hit this stitch marker. There's 8 stitches in between here, so there should be 8 stitches in between on this side here, and then once we have that, I'll fasten off both ends, because this is working yarn from the ball of yarn, so I have to fasten this side off and then fasten this side off, and then we have to make the bows. Alright, so I'm just fastening this off. I just sewed across here, so I also fastened off the other side exactly how I showed you with the front panel pieces. We're gonna just knot this and sew it in underneath the stitches. I don't know if you can hear it, but Nas is crying. You can hear it. He's okay. He's with Grammy. Okay, then we're going to cut this extra. There we go. And now I've off camera added chains for the bows, so I'll show you how to do that. I've added this chain already. We wove it in here, and we're going to do one on the back so that we can tie bows on each side and kind of cinch this waist a little bit. So what I did was just grab some yarn and my crochet hook and started with a slip knot, and I just chained 150. Now yours might be a little bit more or less than 150 chains, but all you have to do is just yarn over and pull through and just make a long strand just like this, okay? And we'll sew in this end later, but just make a long strand like this, and then to fasten it off we just cut that and pull it all the way through and pull tight, okay? So you can make it as long as you need to. So I made this one as 150 chains. Okay, it's kind of like a shoelace. And I left this strand out because I'm going to yarn my needle with this strand. Okay, and then the opposite side I ended up sewing in my end. You can't really see it, but I sewed it in and trimmed it there. Okay, so that is the one end, and then I'll do that to the opposite end once I sew it in. But what we're going to do is take our shirt. Okay, so this, I already did it through the front, okay, so we're going to do this on the back side. I'm going to demonstrate here. You can choose which side you want the front or the back to be. Really does not matter because it's exactly the same, front and back, which is nice. Okay, so then what we're going to do is start So on this piece you can see where I started about 2 inches back from where I sewed this piece. So let's go 2 stitches back from this. And we're going to do it on this top row, like right at the base of, I guess, second row down. So 1, 2. 1, 2 in and 2 down right here. And that is where we're going to go in. And then we're going to skip 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and come out the next one. And then go right back in on the next one. And then skip 4 stitches and just go along this whole row. 1, 2, 3, 4, come out, pull, and go right back into the next one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, come out, and go right back in the next one. And just do that, or you could skip 3 stitches or 5 stitches depending on how much you want your thing to cinch in. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to do 4. 4 is my favorite number. So I'm just going to do 4. And go back in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. And then back in. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get to the other side right here. Okay. And we're going to fasten off there. And then just do it for the front and back for you. I did one already. So I'm just doing this one, and then once I finish this, I'll show you what to do next. Once you have woven this all the way across, you want to make sure your strands are even on both sides. Mine are clearly not. So I'm just going to pull this back a little bit. Make sure they're kind of even. Eyeball it. Okay? And I'm not going to tie these until they're on me, on my body. So you can tie them on your body. And there will be 2 bows down the side. As for sewing in this end here, I'm just going to sew this in. Just like this with my yarn needle. Just going up the chain. And pull. Stretch it out. And then cut the extra. Okay. And there you have it. I love the fringe on this shirt. It's so pretty. This looks so fabulous. Thank you so much for watching and learning how to make this fun, frilly tank top vest shirt piece. You can get the free written instructions on my website, YARNutopia.com, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, check out all of our social links to Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the fun stuff, and a huge thank you to Lion Brand Yarn for providing this comfy cotton blend yarn for this project today. I absolutely love this cotton yarn. Look, it was great working with it, and I really like this color, Spring Meadow. So thanks, Lion Brand Yarn. And thanks to my dad back there who's filming this whole tutorial and zooming in the right spots for everybody to see and uploading this to YouTube. You are the best. And thanks to my dad. And thanks to you for watching. Alright everyone, have a great rest of your day. Until next time, happy hooking!